Hey everyone, how are you? I hope you're all good. I made a little video a little while back, basically just sort of talking a little bit about Wilson's disease and having a liver transplant. I had my liver transplant 7 months ago, and I just wanted to make another video because it's had a few hundred views, so I thought, some people might be finding it interesting. I've had some comments and I've spoken to lots of people since doing the video, so I thought I'd do another one. A bit more detailed about my experience with Wilson's disease. I'm sure that the people watching might have been diagnosed already and had it for a long time. Just might find it interesting to find someone else's journey. You might have just been diagnosed and want to know what to expect. And like I say, this is just my account. Everyone's account of Wilson's disease is very different from what I've learned since I started a blog and doing, like I say, a couple of little videos. I spoke to lots and lots of people with Wilson's disease from all over the world, and the cases really do vary. So again, this is just my own perspective, but I just wanted to share some light and hopefully give you a little bit of encouragement if you have just been diagnosed or anything like that. So I was diagnosed when I was about 14, so that's about 18 years ago now. And the diagnosis it took a long time to get, which seems quite common really, because not many places know what it is, not many doctors know what it is. And it started off before, when I was at secondary school. I love sport, I love football, I played all the time, I played at weekends. I kind of enjoyed school a bit, I didn't mind going. And everything like that. So when I got to about 14, like I say, everything started to slow down. I didn't really want to be playing sports. I started to be really tired all the time. And my mum noticed it, and I was coming in from school and just going straight to bed. And she was taking me to the doctors and just saying to them, look, something's not right, but I don't know what it is. And they were doing all these tests, but they never really found anything. So she just kept on pushing that, and I just started to get worse and worse, more tired. That's all though. That was the only symptoms I had up until Christmas, like I say, when I was about 14. I had prawns. I had a prawn starter, which isn't anything new. You're not always eating prawns, but I'd had prawns before. But prawns tipped me over the edge. So for anyone that knows, copper prawns and shellfish in general is high in copper. So obviously my levels have been building up, and the prawns kind of tipped me over the edge because I was really sick. I was sick, but I still went back and ate on my Christmas dinner, which is not unusual for me because I love food anyway. So yeah, that was fine. Didn't really think too much of it, and then it went to New Year's, and I was going to go and stay at a friend's house. And I was there, and I rang my mum up and I said, felt too ill, I need to come home. And I went back home, spent New Year's at home, and then a couple of days later, like 3 days later, I was at home and I just had this terrible, terrible pain in my stomach, like the worst pain I think I've ever had. And I got rushed straight to hospital. I remember my dad drove me there, and it was so painful in the car, really painful. Just every single bump was just torture. We got there and they rushed me straight through A&E, gave me some painkillers, and I remember my mum was obviously telling them that I'd been going for tests, and they didn't really know what it was, but she was like, he has to stay, there's something seriously wrong. So they kept me in and kept running tests, and they just couldn't find out what was wrong, and it was getting really serious. Like from what I've been told, it was like 2 or 3 more days, and then that could have been the end. So yeah, they were rushing around trying to find out what it was, and I don't really remember much of it because I was on a lot of painkillers at the time. And luckily for me, someone came into that hospital that needed their regular Wilson's check. So they were going once a year, and he popped in for his check, and the doctors kind of put 2 and 2 together and was like, let's check him for that. Let's check Danny for the Wilson's disease. So they checked, and that's it. It came back. I got a positive result, which is good. A diagnosis is really good because then you can start working on treatment. I got rushed to King's College Hospital in London, which is one of the best liver hospitals in the UK, possibly the world. So that was lucky for me as well. And when I got there, they put me on medication. They put me on penicillamine. zinc and some painkillers, some diuretics, because my stomach was really swollen as well, actually. Yeah, so when I got into hospital, there was a water retention, but we didn't know that, so I looked like a pregnant person. That's the only way I can describe it. So I was in hospital and they put me on the medication. Things were leveling out. It took a long time. It took about 4 months, maybe longer, till everything sort of leveled out a bit, but it still wasn't great, but it was good enough for me to be able to go home. And obviously during all that time, it was a huge learning curve. The internet had just come out, but it wasn't great, so there wasn't really much research we could print out or we could learn, or my parents anyway, because to me, I didn't really want to. Well, I was being told everything by the doctors, and that was enough for me. The research into anything else was just too much at that time. So, but my parents wanted to know more, and there wasn't really much about, so it was quite hard. Yeah, and that's another reason I kind of wanted to help do these videos, because now we've got more access to stuff. It's kind of easier to find out a little bit more. Yeah, so I went back home, and obviously it was quite scary, and the medication wasn't quite right still, so I was being really sick, and it was a case of back and forth to the hospital all the time. So I'd be home for like 3 days, 4 days, then back to the hospital for a couple of days. And this went on for a few months, another good few months. So I missed a lot of school. I missed a whole year basically, and then for the year after that, when I was 16, my GCSEs, again, I was still not quite right, so I missed a lot of that as well. So after that, the school and everything, I was starting to level out still, so I still did some GCSEs, and they made some special sort of adjustments so that my marks reflected the time I'd had off work and things like that, so it wasn't off school, sorry, so it wasn't too bad. And I did enough to get into college, which was really good. So, and like I say, I felt better then. And my college that I wanted to go to was about an hour and a half away from my home, maybe a little bit longer. So you had to stay there. And I really wanted to do it. And obviously my parents were a bit more reserved, especially because I'd been through everything the previous 2 years, you know, in and out of hospital and everything like that. They didn't really want me to go too far from home, but it was a choice that I really wanted to make, so we went with it, and it was fine. I think I spent 3 years there, because I had to do an extra year because of my GCSE grades. But yeah, I did the 3 years there. That worked out fine. I came home, and then I went and did a load of work, and then I went and did a load of travelling. So I travelled around Europe for, I think it was about 5 months, maybe a bit longer, I can't remember. And again, that was quite funny, because before I wanted to go, I had to take my medication with me. And originally I only wanted to go for, I think, like 4 months, I think. So I had to get 4 months worth of my medication, which was a lot of pills. And I got all that sorted out through the doctors, which took a bit of persuasion, but they were happy with it in the end. And then, yeah, I was traveling from country to country with tons of pills, which could be quite risky at some points, as you can imagine. But the only place that I had any trouble was I was working in Greece on one of the islands towards the end of the travelling, and I stayed longer than what I'd expected, so I had to ring home and be like, can you send me out some pills, some of my medication? So my mum sent a load out, and like I said, it was a small little island we were on, and they were very strict on drugs policy and everything like that. So as soon as that got into the post office and they could hear it, that was it. I got called into the police station. I had my repeat prescription, but I don't really think they really knew what that was in Greece. You know, it's just a piece of paper. So yeah, it took a little bit of persuasion and stuff like that. I took a lot of my other pill pots with me, and they were like, okay, fair enough. And they let me get away with it and, you know, keep my tablets, which was good. So yeah, that was the only trouble I had with that. And then after travelling, I went to university, had a great time at university, met my girlfriend of that time, and we moved in together after university, so I had all of that. We had our own place, everything was going really, really well. So there's a lot you can do after your diagnosis, you know, it's not the end of the world. I'm sure there was a lot of times when I was lying in hospital and I probably did think it was the end of the world, but you just have to, you have to get over that. And like I say, I've spoken to tons and tons of people that have got a great life now, even with diagnosis. It's just a case of taking the medication. I will say that for me, when I was first taken into hospital, they did a liver biopsy, and they said my liver was really scarred. So they wanted to do a liver transplant sort of there and then. And for me, it didn't seem like the right choice, but they told me about the medication and they'd said that it could work. So I went down that route, and it lasted for 18 years, my medication. It was fine, up until about a year ago, when again I started to get fatigued, tired, and all things like that. And I didn't really even notice that. So it got to a point where I was going to my regular checks at the King's College Hospital. So I was going once a year, sorry, not that regular, but once a year. And I got there and they just sort of said, we've reviewed your last few medications and your last few meds reviews and stuff like that, and we think now's the time to do a liver transplant. So although I'd been expecting it all the time, it was a bit of a shock, because they hadn't said anything the previous years. So as anyone that's been told big news, you kind of get that ringing in your ears and you're just a bit stunned. So yeah, I had that, and then I had my liver transplant 7 months ago, and I tell you what, life is amazing. It is unbelievable, because I didn't notice how ill I was getting, same as when I was younger. You don't notice that progression really, it just starts to happen. And I was so unmotivated, and everything. I had no clear vision, no goals, no nothing. I had them, but I just didn't have the energy to pull it off. So yeah, now I've had that 7 months ago, and it's absolutely incredible. I have to thank the donor's family and the donor, obviously, because without people like that, you wouldn't get that extra life. But so I just wanted to talk a bit about, like I say, Wilson's disease and what my little journey's been, because it might help inspire others, and if it does, that's great. You might have questions. If you have questions, please, I'll leave a link to my Facebook that you can come and ask me questions. I've written a blog, so you can come and read that. I'll leave a link to that. And like I say, I've done another video like this, and it's had quite a few views, or a few hundred views. So what I was thinking, weird thing is, anyone watching this in a year's time or 2 years time or whatever, we're currently in a lockdown in the UK, as is most of the world, because there's a virus going around, so everyone's been ordered to stay at home. So what I was thinking about doing was maybe doing some video messages with people. We'll record it somehow, like Skype or something like that, record it, not really an interview, but just a chat with other people that have got an inspiring story, that have had Wilson's disease, got Wilson's disease, or anything like that, liver transplants, any kind of transplant, or any kind of inspiring story. It'd be great, and then we can just have a chat, record them, and then hopefully get them out on this YouTube channel, and just spread a bit of positivity and stuff like that. And it'd be interesting. I like to speak to new people, so it'd be interesting for me as well. So if you're interested in that, message me on Facebook again. I'll leave all the comments and everything, the links down there. If you have any comments, please comment below. I hope this has been a bit helpful. Like I say, we're in lockdown at the moment, so I thought I'd do another video anyway. Stay safe everyone, and see you soon. Bye bye.